his intricate gray cloaks falling aside to reveal the two swords sheathed at his hips. "Shit! It's him!" the thief screamed, turning to run. Haern felt contempt ripple through him. Such poor training. Did the guilds let anyone in now? He took the young man down, making sure no hit was lethal. He needed a message delivered. "Who?" asked one, turning at the cry. Haern cut his throat before he could draw his blade. The other yelped and stepped back. His dagger parried the first of Haern's stabs, but he had no concept of positioning. Haern smacked the dagger twice to the right, then slipped his left sword into his belly and twisted. As the thief bled out, Haern looked to the serpent atop the wall. "Care to join the fun?" he asked, yanking out his blade and letting the blood drip to the street. "I'm out of players." Two daggers whirled down at him. He sidestepped one and smacked away the other. Hoping to provoke the man further, Haern kicked the crate. With no other option, the thief turned and fled back down the wall on the other side. Disappointed, Haern sheathed the sword and used the other to pry open the crate. With a loud creak, the top came off, revealing 3 burlap sacks within. He dipped a hand in one, and it came out dripping with gold coins, each one clearly marked with the sigil of the Gemcroft family. Interesting. "Please," he heard the young thief beg. He bled from cuts on his arms and legs, most certainly painful, but nothing life-threatening. The worst Haern had done was hamstring him to prevent him from fleeing. "Please, don't kill me. I can't. Haern slung all 3 bags over his shoulder. With his free hand, he pressed the tip of his sword against the young man's throat. "They'll want to know why you lived," he said. The man had no response to that, only a pathetic sniffle. Haern shook his head. How far the Serpent Guild had fallen. But all the guilds had fallen since that bloody night 5 years ago. Thren Fellhorn, the legend, had failed in his coup, bringing doom upon the underworld. Thren. His father. "Tell them you have a message," Haern said. "Tell them I'm watching." "Who?" In response, Haern took his sword and dipped it in the man's blood. "They'll know who," he said before vanishing, leaving only a single eye drawn in the dirt as his message, blood for its ink, a sword its quill. He didn't go far. He had to lug the bags to the rooftops one at a time, but once he was up high, his urgency dwindled. The rooftops were his home, had been for years. Following the main road west, he reached the inner markets, still silent and empty. Plunking down the bags, he lay with his eyes closed and waited. He woke to the sounds of trade. Hunger stirred in his belly, but he ignored it. Hunger, like loneliness and pain, had become a constant companion. He wouldn't call it friend, though. "May you go to better hands," Haern said to the first sack of gold before stabbing its side. Coins spilled, and he hurled them like rain to the packed streets. Without pause, he cut the second and third, flinging them to the suddenly ravenous crowd. They dove and fought as the gold rolled along, bouncing off bodies and plinking into various wooden stalls. Only a few bothered to look up, those who were lame or old and dared not fight the crowd. "The Watcher!" someone cried. "The Watcher is here!" The cry put a smile on his lips as Haern fled south, having not kept a single coin. It had taken 5 years, but at last Alyssa Gemcroft understood her late father's paranoia. The meal placed before her smelled delicious, spiced pork intermixed with baked apples, but her appetite remained dormant. "I can have one of the servants taste it if you'd like," said her closest family advisor, a man named Bertram who had loyally served her father. "I'll even do so myself." "No," she said, brushing errant strands of her red hair back and tucking them behind her left ear. "That's not necessary. I can afford to skip a meal." Bertram frowned, and she hated the way he looked at her, like a doting grandfather.